Hey guys, Poro here, and I'm going to be giving you a full rundown of everything you need to know about MSI, including breakdowns of all the remaining teams who have a chance to qualify. We can get the easy stuff out of the way first. MSI will be hosted in London, UK from May 2nd to May 21st. You can watch it on the Riot Games official stream on Twitch, but it will also be available on the LoL Esports website. The event will feature 13 teams, the top 2 seeded teams each from the LCK, LPL, LEC, and LCS, and the first seeded team from the PCS, VCS, CBLOL, LJL, and LLA. The tournament is split into 2 stages, the play-in stage and the bracket stage. The top 2 seeds from the LCK, as well as the top seed from the LPL, LEC, and LCS automatically qualify for the bracket stage. The play-in stage is held with the 8 remaining teams, and they will be drawn into 2 double elimination brackets where they will play multiple best-of-3 series. The winner of each group will qualify for the bracket stage, and the 2 runner-ups of each group will play one last best-of-5 match against each other for the final spot. The bracket stage is a standard 8-team double elimination bracket, and every series is best of 5. Lose 2 series and you're out until the finals. There will be no second life match in the event that a team makes it to finals undefeated and then loses. Now that the general outline of the tournament is done, we can go into the teams who are still in contention to qualify for MSI. As of right now, only 3 teams have locked a spot, but we'll still go in order of region. The LCK is first, and there are 3 teams left in the playoffs. T1 already qualified, and the final spot will go to the winner of the losers bracket final match between KT and Gen G. Regardless of who wins the grand final, both teams in the final are qualified for the bracket stage automatically. First up, we have T1, who dominated all of the regular season, finishing 17-1 and then making it to finals unscathed. For players to watch, there really isn't a weak point, with the LCK All-Pro first team literally being all of T1. In terms of picks to watch, T1 does have a handful. Zeus has been sticking to mostly meta champs, but there's always a chance he whips out a Yone. Owner's Lee Sin is something to keep in mind as well, as he might pick it even in bad Lee Sin spots and dominate it on it anyway. Carius Thresh is also a priority pick for T1, as it's his signature champion. KT had a rough start of the split, dropping games to bottom tier teams, but had a strong second half of the split and finished tied second at 13-5. They took T1 to 5 games in the playoffs earlier and are the favorites to win against Gen G. The main player to watch for on this team is their top laner Keen. Keen is one of the largest reasons for the wave of carry tops in the late 2010s, and he still plays a lot of carry champions. He's also proving to be the only useful Malphite player in the entirety of the East. In terms of picks to watch, Keen's Rise and Urgot both made dominating appearances in the playoffs. Cuz plays non-traditional junglers like Xin Zhao and Viego, specifically being very good at the latter. Don't be surprised if you see BDD whip out Twisted Fate or Zoe, although Zoe hasn't made any appearances as of late. While many people won't recognize the name Aiming, it's also important to note that Aiming was actually the 3rd All-Pro ADC in summer 2022, placing him above names like Deft and Gumayusi that split. Lehens does have his pocket picks, but he's been sticking to meta champions in playoffs. Gen G also finished the regular season at 13-5, but they lost both of their series to KT during the regular season. Doran has been a noticeable weak point in many of Gen G's games, and Peanut has been performing below expectations as well. However, they have a new duo in the bot lane consisting of Delight, a strong LCK support who is ELO held in bottom tier teams, and Pays, an upcoming superstar rookie. Gen G plays fairly standard across the board, with the only notable pick to watch being Jarvan top, but the appearance was lackluster and likely won't happen again. Next, we're moving on to the LPL, which has 4 teams remaining fighting for 2 spots. No team has guaranteed qualification yet. First up is EDG, widely considered to be the most consistent team left in playoffs. They finished regular season tied first at 13-3, mostly off the back of team play and macro. The consensus is that their individual ceiling per player isn't super high, but the teamwork makes them more than the sum of their parts. The 2 players to keep an eye on in this team are Fofo and Leave. Fofo is a player who was known for being a large personality and highly inconsistent in the past, but he has had an extremely dominant split in which I would personally put him in top 5 LPL mids. Leave is similar to Pays, a superstar rookie that has potential to be an all-time great. In terms of picks to watch, always be on the lookout for Ole's Camille and Mako's Annie, 2 picks that each player has shown significantly positive performances on for multiple years, even when the champions are out of meta. EDG is also highly likely to flex Jace, as Fofo has been the best Jace mid in the LPL this year. JDG is a roster that was touted to be the best in LPL before the season began, but the play hasn't been quite as clean as what was expected. JDG finished tied first at 13-3, but mostly off the back of crazy carry performances from one of their players and not team play like EDG. Every player on JDG is a threat to 1v9 a game though. The big picks to watch on this team are Knight, Syndra, and Ahri. JDG has shown a high prio on Syndra despite it not being played elsewhere in the world, and Knight put up one of the greatest solo performances of all time earlier in the split with a 16-0-7 game on Ahri. Kanavi is also known for leaning more towards carry-oriented junglers, but he has still been staying meta. BLG has been one of the Cinderella stories of the LPL tournament, fighting their way past RNG and Weibo Gaming to make double elimination, where they did lose their series against JDG in 5 games. However, BLG was primed to win that game 5, making for some question marks around both teams. The player to watch on BLG is Bin, who's been having arguably the best split of his career. He's been gapping every top laner he faced in playoffs, including the Shy and 369. In terms of picks to watch on BLG, be prepared for Shun to whip out Kindred. Kindred is good against many of the meta junglers like Vi and Wukong, so Shun has been playing quite a lot of it. OMG is the final team remaining from the LPL, and if you've been around on the channel, then you know that OMG is also my favorite team in the world and has been for the last 3 years. I could go on for hours about this team, but I'll try to limit myself. OMG has had a complete coin flip of a season, dropping early series to bottom tier teams like Ultra Prime and Rare Atom, but ended the regular season beating 3 of the top 5 teams to earn their playoff slot, and then upsetting Top Esports and LNG to make their way to double elimination. Similar to JDG, all 5 players on this roster can 1v9 a game at a moment's notice, but unlike JDG, all 5 players can absolutely sprint it down and solo ruin a game at any moment as well. While this has been happening much less lately, there's always the threat of a player going rogue on OMG and either winning or losing the game on the spot. When watching OMG, the golden rule is that every fight is a good fight, and if there's a fight available, they'll always fight it. OMG has a lot of picks to watch. For Shanji, his Rumble is essentially permaban at this point, and he's also solidified himself as the best K'Sante player in pro play. Cream is the resident melee mid laner, and he'll snatch up all the main melee carries in a heartbeat. His big pick to watch for though is Victor, because the golden rule is that if Cream gets Victor, OMG will lose the game. Abel's pick to watch is Samira, and many teams permaban Samira against OMG after a few 1v9 performances on the pick last year. The key for OMG is draft phase. If OMG picks a meta comp, they will likely lose the game. The more weird and nonsensical picks make it through the draft, the more likely OMG will find a random way to win. Next up is the LEC, but there are still 8 teams remaining with 7 in contention over a singular slot, so I'll be glossing over a lot of these teams. The one team that has already qualified is G2. They steamrolled Winter Split and still look relatively strong in Spring Split. The main facet of their game is drafting in pace, coming out with unique draft plans and pushing the tempo as fast as possible. The 2 players to watch for are Caps and Yike. Caps is the centerpiece for a lot of the team comps and plans, and Yike is a rookie jungler who excels at carry picks and early pathing. This duo together is a core reason why G2 are able to dominate a lot of the early games. In terms of picks to watch, Broken Blade and Caps have shown a willingness to flex Kled, with Caps having more interesting mid picks like Malphite, Zac, and Sejuani. Yike has pulled out a fair number of unorthodox carries like Lilia, Bel'Veth, and Grace. It's also been a key point that Hans Sama gets his Draven as pick or ban. In terms of the other teams, it's a complete toss-up. Fnatic likely won't qualify due to lack of championship points. Mad, Koi, and SK still have the 3 most championship points apart from G2, but are unironically looking like the 3 worst teams out of the 8 remaining. On the flip side, Vitality, Astralis, and BDS are looking like the top of the table, but finished 5th, 6th, and 7th in Winter. G2 looks strong, but isn't looking likely to win the split. If they do, Mad has the edge due to the Winter Championship points despite looking like a weaker team. If they don't win, the 3 teams most likely to win are BDS, Vitality, and Astralis as mentioned before. Key points to note include that Vitality brought Upset into their roster and have the highest skill ceiling in the league across the board. Astralis brought Leader in and are looking like a top level team because of it. BDS finished regular season in 1st place with all 5 members performing above expectations, especially Crownshot. Mad still have their core roster but look like a lower tier LEC team, Koi has the same core roster but look weaker than Winter, and SK have a solid roster that will likely finish in the middle of the pack and then miss out due to lack of championship points. Next is LCS with 3 teams remaining in playoffs and 1 spot already secured by C9. The 2 teams fighting for the last spot are FlyQuest and Golden Guardians. C9 kept the same roster as last split except swapping out Jensen for MNS. This move seems like a positive as C9 has dominated the league ever since MNS came in. There's a strong argument that C9 possesses the best LCS player in each role across the board. In terms of picks to watch, 2 players who play the most unorthodox style in their role are Sven and MNS. Sven has a tendency to lean towards range supports with a higher priority on Soraka than usual. MNS plays a lot of the standard carry champions over control mages, but his signature pick has been his LeBlanc. FlyQuest was dominant for the majority of the first half of the split, but were eclipsed by C9 in regular season once MNS came in. The team features many prominent names in the scene, with the key player being Prince. Prince was 2nd team All-Pro in LCK behind Ruler, and is one of the better ADCs in the entire world. In terms of picks to watch, keep an eye out for Spica's Amumu as the main spicy pick on the team. Golden Guardians is a team that was projected to be bottom tier with a general consensus that River Gory as their mid jungle would be good, but that everybody else would drag the team down. However, Golden Guardians has emerged as one of the top teams in the LCS, mainly because River and Gory were significantly better than expected, and Stixxay stepped up big time to become one of the better ADCs of the split. The team doesn't really play anything out of the ordinary though, so expect fairly standard drafts. The VCS technically still hasn't started playoffs, meaning there are still 7 teams with a chance to make MSI, but there are only 2 teams worth going over. First up is Gigabyte Marines, a name most people familiar with the International League should know. They're currently undefeated, being 12-0. The roster is the exact same as last split with the exception of Xin instead of BA. Gigabyte Marines plays hyper-aggressively looking for a lot of scraps whenever possible. The big player to watch for is Levi, who's been the heart of the team for many years. In terms of picks to watch, there are a few. Levi's Nocturne is still making appearances, and there's been an odd priority on Scion mid for KD. Style is also unafraid to play mages in the bot lane, so be prepared for that too. SBTC is the other VCS team worth mentioning, and they're 8-4. SPTC is a complete newcomer to the VCS with a lot of hype surrounding their team domestically. There's not much out of the ordinary on the team, and I'm not expecting them to have any real shot at taking the MSI spot over Gigabyte Marines. The SEA Games also aren't hosting League of Legends this year, meaning VCS will likely actually send their 1 seed to MSI. The PCS is similar to the VCS in the sense that there are technically 4 teams remaining who could take the slot, but there's an extremely high likelihood that it's going to PSG Talon. PSG is easily the best team in the PCS, dominating the regular season with a 15-3 record. The big news with this team is that they managed to secure Junjia as their jungler, who was previously the sub-jungler for EDG. Ever since acquiring Junjia, the team has been completely different and smashing their way through everyone else. The PCS has always been a relatively tame region in terms of drafts, with no picks on PSG being out of the ordinary. CFO still has a lot of the same core members as they did at Worlds last year. The key player to watch on this team is Rest, who was the winning piece in a lot of their games. One interesting Poké pick you might see from CFO is Rest's Mordekaiser. Frankie Sports finished near the top of the standings with their star player Solo Kill in the top lane. In addition to Solo Kill, they also have veteran support Kaiwing. In terms of picks to watch, keep an eye out for Solo Kill's Aurelia, one of his signature champs. Keep an eye out for Solo Kill as a whole, as he's a strong argument for player of the split in the entire PCS in my opinion. The last team still alive in the PCS is Impunity, or what I like to call Mission plus Friends. Watching games with Impunity is kinda sad to be honest, since every team has the exact same strategy of triple ban Mission in first 3 and pray to god Mission doesn't carry. The craziest part about all of this is that it's not even like Impurity has any cool pocket picks or crazy drafting. Mission pulls off all of these carry performances on completely standard control mages. Next is the CB LoL, and there are still 4 teams remaining in playoffs. First up, and most likely to take the qualifying spot, is Loud. Everyone remembers this team from Worlds 2022, and even if you don't remember them from League, you might know them as one of the dominating forces in Valorant. The team is still the same as last split with the exception of Rout over Brance in the ADC position. The 2 key players to watch for are their solo laners, Robo and Tennyson. Robo's ceiling is one of the best players in the West when he's not coin flipping out of his mind, and Tennyson is one of the staple veterans in CB LoL history, similar to when Maple was in the PCS. Loud has a lot of spicy picks to watch for as well. Robo really enjoys volatile carries and plays a lot of Olaf and Aatrox. Tennyson has a pocket pick Swain that randomly appeared in playoffs. Seos is the resident Amumu support player who still picks it all the time. This team is a big wildcard and will likely make some kind of splash should they be the team that qualifies for MSI. The other team with a decent shot at qualifying is Pain Gaming. There are some familiar faces on the roster such as Karaoke and Damage, with Karaoke probably being the best player on the team, but their mid laner Dean Kato has also stepped up. Pain Gaming is a fairly standard team across the board in terms of drafting, but Dean Kato has a pocket pick Swain that came out in playoffs. Next is a team that some of you might recognize the name of, and that's Los Grandes, also known as one of the resident channel memes. Los Grandes will defeat T1 3-0 in Worlds 2023 Grand Finals after all. That aside, this team has a lot of fun names. In addition to CB LoL veteran jungler Ranger, the team has LEC top laner Hirit and LCK mid laner Lava to round out their roster. It's a solid roster that led the regular season for the majority of the split. In terms of picks to watch, Ranger has a pocket pick Amumu and Zay has a pocket pick Pyke that come out frequently. Lava can pick anything on the spot if you aren't prepared for it, with 15 unique champions played in 18 games. The last team in CB LoL is Furia, a team that has been kind of camping around the top half of the league for a while. I really don't expect this team to have a shot at MSI qualification, but on the off chance they do, they have some cool picks there including Vex, Amumu, and Olaf. We're in the home stretch with only 2 regions left to go, one of which is the LJL with 4 teams left in the playoffs, although I'm not going to go over Fennel because I expect them to get blown out. The first team to mention is of course DFM. They've dominated the LJL for all of time and are still one of the top 3 teams in the league split. While they did lose Evi, they also regained Arya, which I definitely think is an upgrade in isolation. Arya is easily the best player in the LJL, and he's surrounded by the other core members of the old DFM roster. In terms of picks to watch, Arya's Aurelia is the big one. Despite all of this though, I don't actually expect DFM to qualify for MSI, and there's even a good chance that DFM isn't top 2. The first of the 2 teams contesting DFM is SoftBank Hawks, a team with 2 names you'll probably recognize, Blank and Vista. As to be expected, Blank is the main driving force of the team, being the best jungler in the LJL. There's really nothing to note in terms of drafting or pocket picks, but the team's pieces are strong enough to be a good contender. The other team, who actually took first in regular season, is Sengoku Gaming, a team filled with talent. Loken is the most recognizable name on the team, but the solo laners Jet and Paz have also had a strong season. Paz is a fairly standard top laner in terms of champ pool, but Jet tends to play a lot of volatile melee mid carries. In terms of picks to watch, it should be noted that this team plays a lot of Lee Sin. Many of the team comps Sengoku Gaming goes for are based around dominating mid jungle. I personally think this will be the team representing the LJL at MSI. The last region is the LLA, and this region is actually already down to the finals and playoffs. The team expected to win is 6 Karma, with the 2 big names on this roster being LCK jungler On Fleek and LLA veteran Cody. On Fleek has essentially been the key dominating factor in 6K's wins, and this team has a massive amount of momentum in playoffs. In terms of pocket picks, Shuhari has been playing Seraphine as of late, and of course the big one is Cody's Zoe, easily a top 5 Zoe player in the West. The other team is Rainbow 7, who upset Astral in losers bracket finals to knock them out. Their best player is Miru, but Bong is the big player to watch for. He's got a maniacal champion pool consisting of champs like Aurelia, Tryndamere, Lee Sin, and Darius. Apart from their crazy top laner, the rest of the team plays fairly standard, and I don't expect them to beat 6k in the finals. That's going to do it for the teams, and hopefully that was enough to get you caught up in what's been going on around the world before MSI starts. I'm super excited for the new format and a lot of the minor region teams, so we'll see what happens then. I'll probably do a power rankings and predictions video once the 13 teams are locked in, so look forward to that. Also, if this video is received well, I'll probably start doing edited videos like this for every MSI and Worlds, so let me know if you think that would be a good idea. Bye.